afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis, hence the name of my channel, Lloyd Consulting. 4 years ago, I was asked to come up with a series of videos that were filmed inexpensively. We don't use digital cameras, we don't use fluid head tripods, we don't use shotgun microphones, we wear tatty shirts, we just use a phone. But we look at cars that you can buy for a budget up to £1,000 only, and we very much enjoy ourselves. These are cars that might be in cosmetically bad condition. You might see oil leaks, rattly dashboards and cosmetic imperfections, but we go all over the country and we find these very inexpensive cars that you all seem to enjoy watching. Sometimes viewers, I'm a very, very blessed man indeed, and I have some wonderful channel viewers who've provided several cars for review, and this is no exception today. This is a 2002 Fiat Punto Mark II 1.28 valve go model. I don't exactly know what you get in the Go model, but this is one of many cars that Alex owns. He's got a Peugeot 206 that I filmed, a Yugo that I filmed, a Hyundai Stella that I filmed, and a Mazda 626. And we're going to have a go in another one of these cars later on. But first, this is the Punto. This is a Mark II, introduced in 1999 or early 2000 in this country. I'm not entirely sure which one of those is true for over here. I've heard different things about that, but they were discontinued over here in 2006. Although in some parts of the world you get these until 2013. Which I think was in Serbia, where they did make them for a time. Very much an evolution of the Mark I Punto. We've had a couple of those on the channel already, and also a couple of Grande Puntos which came after this, although they were sold side by side in 2005 and 2006. Quite rare now, the Mark II Puntos, principally because of rust and also timing belts on the fire engines that were fitted to the majority of these. This pre-facelift one, facelift occurred in the middle of 2003. Looks a bit plain on the back end, to be honest, particularly because we've had a rear wiper deactivated. There's no sort of big badges in the middle, which would be on a facelift car. Also, this is quite a low specification. You can see we've got black plastic door handles and black plastic bumpers on this, which, you know, it's no budget reviews, the sort of thing that we like. We also need to use the key to get in the boot. There we are. Actually, the dimensions seem very, very similar to a Mark I. All of the body panels and things are new, but the actual platform is exactly the same. I wish they'd worked a bit harder with plastics though, but you know, to be honest, this car is over 20 years old and that's really to be expected in something like this. It has only done 45,000 miles, which is remarkable. And also Alex only paid £1,000 for this car, so we're in no budget reviews territory here, which is fine. Top of the boot carpet, see if we've got a spare. Yes, we have. Look at that. In nice condition as well. The biggest problem with these cars is the rust. That's what's killed most of them. And this one is okay, which is brilliant. Nice and spacious as well. Very easy to get in and out of these back doors. Very, very easy. I mean, if you wanted even more space, you get a Fiat Idea, which I have reviewed on the channel actually as well. Mr. Richardson Furious Driving used to have one for a time. They're not actually based on the same platform, these. They're slightly different, but they do share some of the same engineering, particularly the 1.4 engine was the same in both of the cars. But yeah, you know, nice bright interior. I don't know if this is unique to the Go model, but I like it. It's a lot sort of brighter than a lot of the interiors I've seen. And fabric seems quite hard wearing. Now, I think this car's been parked somewhere where it's got a little bit filthy at some point on the headlining, but it's not a big problem. It's no budget reviews after all. Interesting design of these sort of handles. It very sort of much reminds me of something like the Fiat Multipla, which came out a couple of years before this. Although that has much more challenging styling, shall we say, on the outside. So yeah, nothing really to sort of say. There's no rear armrest, no rear head restraints in this. But plenty of headroom, you know, that's one thing it shares with the Mark I. And windy windows in the back. because of course then you know, that's what we like. Manual mirrors. Very, very nice large door pockets, aren't they? Huge. Just a basic plastic steering wheel. We've got the parking light feature, which is this little button there on Fiat of this time. And no rev counter. No rev counter at all. A Blaupunkt stereo. 2 airbags, which is good. Nice and safe. No air conditioning, that's where the button would be. We do have the city button, which is like a dual mode for the electric power steering. At this time, electric power steering was a very uncommon thing. I think the Corsa C, which came out in 2000, and this were one of the first sort of cars of a segment to have it. We'll try it out a bit later. I mean, I don't think I'm going to like it particularly. I'm not really fond of very light steering, and the power assistance in this, I've just tried it out, is fine anyway. Unlike the Mark 1, where some of the models came without power steering, and I have driven 2 without power steering. All of these I think did come with power steering as standard, which is good. These indicator and wiper stalks look very, very familiar. Very familiar indeed. But yeah, there's nothing to say really. Put the key in and see if we can have a look at the mileage. I'm going to need to turn my right hand, I think. Yeah, I'm going to turn my right hand. Just hold on a second, viewers. Okay, gosh, that was fiddly. As you can see, yeah, it's even lower than I thought. It's 44,000 miles. Electric windows, let's turn that off for a second. Electric windows are actually in the middle here, which obviously is a thing that keeps costs down, isn't it? And the radio is, well, it's just really a radio. There's nothing to say. It's integrated into the car, which is a very common thing, again, to stop people stealing them. But it's just a tape deck made by Blaupunkt. Not really, again, much to say about it. Let's see if my secret mission documents actually go in there. The glove box. Oh, part of my mount's coming there as well, but that's okay. No! What? Oh, come on. That's rubbish. I mean, put it in there, I suppose, but I suppose we could put it up here as well. I mean, there's a huge, like, tray up there for all kinds of things. Maybe that's where it should go. That looks quite good up there. Yeah, heater controls, very conventional. Plastic's not too bad. It's a little bit sort of wobbly, but, you know, this car's 22 years old. You can't expect everything. I would like some air conditioning, but, you know, never mind. Cigar lighter down there. Ashtray, some cup holders, 5-speed manual. You could get 2 different automatic gearboxes with one of these. One was a semi-automatic, which is a lot more interesting. On the base one though, if you want the 8-valve 1.2 like this, you could just get another type of automatic. Why they needed 2 different automatic gearboxes in this car, I don't really know. But there we go. Right, little storage tray here. Vents are, what was probably super exciting at the time, but a lot of vents are like this now, aren't they? At least the dashboard's not entirely black. It has a sort of grey layer and a black layer, so it makes it a bit more visually interesting. Other than that, because we're in the go model, we don't really have anything else to say. We better look under the bonnet, viewers, otherwise I'll run out of information to give you. So here is the 1.2 fire engine. It's been around since the 1980s actually. This one displaces, actually it's a 1250cc, 1242 actually, generating 59 horsepower with an 8-valve cylinder head. You could also get a 16-valve version of this engine, and actually the 16-valve is something I've tried in a Fiat Brava before. They sound great, the 16-valve versions of this actually. One thing I've just noticed, it has a Fiat Lancia sort of casting just there, and of course at the time they made the was it the Y, the Upsilon as well, although I'm not sure we got those over here. Look at that. Centralina fusibile I telerutori. It's my dreadful Italian there, viewers. They have a timing belt on this engine, so just make sure that's been done. At the time, the Mark 1 and Mark 2 Punto engines were not exactly notorious for head gasket failure. This isn't a Rover K series, but they did sometimes suffer from it. So if you're buying one of these, just make sure that it's all okay. Interesting oil filler cap with these and there, sort of flat thing. But yeah, not much to say really. Access is pretty good, to be honest. You can see a lot of the floor here. There is the gearbox just underneath the battery. And yeah, probably home maintenance on this is double compared with most modern cars, isn't it? Right, let's have a little drive out, shall we, in this lovely Mark II Punto. First impression that you get when driving this car is actually just how remarkably easy it is, even without the city mode activated for the power steering. I don't think you need that at all. I don't exactly know who that was aimed at. Maybe it was aimed at new drivers or something. Certainly when a friend of mine was learning to drive in 2002, the instructor she had one of these and she really enjoyed using that city button. But I wouldn't say necessarily that most of you would need that, particularly if you're used to one of the more basic Mark I Puntos that didn't come with power steering at all. Considering how old this car is and how little power it has, it only has 59 horsepower from this 1.2 engine. It feels actually quite lively. I mean, I'd probably prefer the 16 valve version. I know those also make a really great noise, but this is fine. So the 16 valve had about 79 horsepower, as opposed to this car that has 59 horsepower. 0 to 60 in this, I think, is 13.8 seconds, which I can well believe. It's responsive enough for kind of driving around town and things like that, which is really what a little almost base model Punto like this would have been primarily for. But for motorway use and things like that, you probably want either the 1.2 16 valve or the 1.4 that came out in 2003 with a facelift. That's a very similar engine to the one of the Idea that I drove, I think it was last year, the Idea, and then also related to the engine that was in the Fiat Tipo Saloon that I drove, the 2020 Fiat Tipo Saloon. Drove that in 2022, I think it was. So yeah, very long-lived engine. You've got to watch with those oil leaks, and also if the cam belt's been done, but they're actually not that bad. The top of the range engine was in the HGT model, HGT Abarth, which was 130 horsepower from a 1.8, that I think was also used in quite a few other Fiat models. It wasn't a fire engine. It was a completely different type of engine, that one. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit on the slow side, this car. It's not going to win any speed records, but it's quite comfortable. Suspension is fine, but road service up where I am isn't particularly good, and it's dealing with it just sort of okay. It's actually quite enjoyable. I don't know if it's more enjoyable than a Mark I, but it does feel similar, and that's really no surprise at all. The main thing I'm noticing with this car is actually how sort of flimsy these indicator wiper stalks feel. Now, they haven't broken in over 20 years of use, so they're probably not too bad. They just don't feel very good, and that is a bit of a problem when you're comparing this against something like, I don't know, a 9N Polo or something like that, or a Corsa C. It just feels a little bit better built than one of these. I don't necessarily know if those would feel as fun. This does feel quite good fun. It's got that sort of typical sort of Italian character to it, where you don't need a lot of displacement to have a lot of fun. But obviously, you know, the larger engines would be a little bit better than this. Let's just type this city button for a laugh, shall we, and see what happens. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Not a lot of feel through the steering, not a lot, just none. absolutely no feel through the steering whatsoever to turn that off. Yeah, I mean, if you were, I don't know, maybe not particularly strong, or you really had difficulty parking, which of course some learners do, and you know, I still struggle parking sometimes myself, then that might be quite useful. But for the rest of you, I would advise you to leave that button well alone. Quite like this car actually. I prefer sort of a higher trim like an Eleganza, possibly with the 16 valve 1.2 or 1.4, but apart from that, I'm quite impressed really. So there were lots of trim levels available for the Mark II Fiat Punto in this country. When the car came out in late 1990, 2000, there was just a base, like sort of 1.28 valve. Then the Active, Dynamic, Eleganza, ELX, HGT and HLX. And then later on, the Sporting, that came with a 6-speed gearbox. The 5 million edition was in 2003, I think, just right at the end of pre-facelift production, when they understandably had made 5 million Puntos and they wanted to celebrate. And then the Active Sporting, the Go, like this one, the HGT Abarth, which is more like an appearance package for the GT, and the Mia. In 2003, with a facelift, more trim levels became available. The Active Plus, the Active Sport, the Dynamic Plus, the Soul, the Chill, and the Xbox. Yes, the Fiat Punto Xbox. Don't know what possibly could have led them to sort of make the collection between the two, but there we go. The automatic on the 1.260 valve was called the Speed Gear, which is like a semi-automatic gearbox. I think it was 6 speeds normally and 7 speeds for the sporting models. Later on, when the Grande Punto came out in 2005, this car was marketed as the Fiat Punto Classic in some areas, and the Zastava 10 between about, I think, 2006 and 2009, until Fiat entirely bought out Zastava, where they were making these cars in Serbia, and then that continued in production until 2011, and then a break, and then the last of these were made in 2013, which is crazy. It's a very, very long production life for the Mark II Punto. So viewers, you consider one of these with your hard-earned budget up to £1,000. I don't see why not. If you can get one that's not rusty underneath, and that's the biggest problem with these of all, and hasn't got sort of bad electrics or, you know, a cam belt was about to snap, then yeah, I don't see why not. There are not very many of these left. I don't think they're very valuable, apart from maybe like a nice HGT or an Eleganza or a Sporting. Other than that, I think they are just out there, and you know, they just blend into the background. I would avoid pressing the city button though. That's not my favourite feature of these. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment below, and we shall see you again very soon for some more inexpensive motoring.